My name is Richard Bond, and I am the co-director of the movie Tupac Assassination Battle for Compton. Our movie recently has come under some serious scrutiny by members of the murder rap group led by former LAPD Detective Greg Kading. In short, they've accused us of propagating a falsehood against the public in the form of a confession letter that we received from Chris Blatchford at Fox News. There was a letter that was given to Blatchford.
Okay.
And this letter was alleged to have been written by Danny and Malcolm Patton.
Okay.
And the Patton brothers were Pyrus.
Okay. Yes.
And
it's a gang in Los Angeles.
Yes, it was a gang in Los Angeles. I should say that.
Yeah.
That the Blood Gang.
Yeah.
And that they had mapped out this entire, not only a confession that they were involved with the shootings, but why the shootings happened, what was all involved with it to begin with. Mr. Kading claims that the confession letter that we allege in our movie to have been written by Malcolm and Danny Patton is a fake. Well, that's just not true. And we're here to talk about that tonight. And we're going to let Mr. Surya speak to it in his own words.
I believe that Danny is going out of his way to get out of his mess. You know, Danny's the one that came up to me and told me the whole situation that he did, the involvement he had.
Hi, my name is Susan Constantine, and I am a body language expert and leadership coach. Okay, everyone get a really good look at your partner next to you, because I'm going to tell you if that person's going to lie to you.
Body language expert specializing in human behavior and facial recognition, Susan Constantine.
Well, my general conclusion is when I looked at both the photographs, there was a high level of similarity. I've had over 1,000 national appearances on television. I'm asked every day almost to be on some show or to be quoted in a magazine. And the reason why they do that is because out of all of the experts out there, I give them content, good content every single time that's consistent, reliable, and accurate.
To find out if somebody's lying, first of all, the first thing we have to do is create a baseline. How does someone normally respond in a normal situation when they're not under pressure?
They may even put their hands over their mouth. These are little things, little clues that your little one is lying to you.
Well, the Jury Lab software was developed so that we can, as a trial consultant or attorney, can have eyes on the entire panel. You know, we can only pay attention to maybe one or two jurors. We can't see all the other movements and nuances of their facial expressions, which are the most accurate way to read people based on mathematical science, to read all the data points in a person's face all at the same time with 95% accuracy. There's no human being that would ever be able to do that, and it's humanly impossible. we're just watching his responses.
Of a video they did in the neighborhood a long time ago, like gang files.
Okay, that was the first one. So this is where he keeps tapping his fingers.
In the neighborhood a long time ago, like gang files.
We do know that in research that when someone tries to contain themselves, it will leak out somewhere. So when I see his hand tap like that, I liken it to a teapot. When it gets too hot and starts to boil, the lid starts to sing, right?
Right.
So you can only contain it, and one way to release that, like in a teapot, is to lift the lever.
Have you ever met anybody in Tupac Shakur's entourage or anything like that?
Yes.
Now look at that. He answers yes, and guess what? He doesn't move.
Have you ever met anybody in Tupac Shakur's entourage or anything like that?
Yes.
Is that from your neighborhood associations from where you grew up?
Yeah, because he says yes. I knew the gang people.
Yes.
I ran into
exactly.
somebody in Tupac's entourage. Sure.
Yep, but did you notice that there was also a pause before he answered that question?
Yes.
Yes.
Was Mr. Blatchford, the reporter, part of that that production of some type of gang expose?
The day I was there, he said he was.
There's another one.
That production of some type of gang expose?
The day I was there, he said he was.
At that meeting, was there any discussion whatsoever about the murder of Tupac Shakur?
No.
Yep, right there. Was there any discussion about the murder of Tupac? And you saw it right there.
Robert had given this guy a letter claiming that you and your brother Malcolm, along with a guy named Little Halfdead. Do you know who Little Halfdead is?
No.
His real name is Donald Smith. He's a rapper. He's loosely associated or perhaps related to Snoop Dogg. You've never met Little Halfdead in your life?
No.
You
Right
don't
there.
know him?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
This letter claims
Right there.
that
That one where he gasps for air. That's nervousness. You know, when your stomach's upset and you're feeling anxious, that's what happens too.
Do you feel that this is because he's going into an area that he's not comfortable speaking about?
Exactly. That's what happens.
that you, Little Halfdead, and your brother Malcolm were involved in the murder of Tupac Shakur in 1996. Is there any truth to that whatsoever?
No.
Right there.
Yep.
He's got to expel the energy somewhere. So he's expelling that's how he's expelling his energy.
In 1996, on September 7th specifically, which was the night Tupac Shakur was shot, were either you or Malcolm even in Las Vegas?
No.
There we go again. See, I would be pointing out all of these.
Back when you used to hang out with Robert, did he have a wild imagination?
Wow.
Okay. Have you ever been interviewed
Oh, there's
by
the
the Las
fist.
Vegas
There's the
Metropolitan
fist.
Police Department in regard to
This
the
one
murder
is
of
Danny.
Tupac Shakur?
This, by the way, so you know, this
Have
the
you
guy in
been
the black is
contacted by
Danny.
any law-
Danny is the dark side. I think that Malcolm, is it Malcolm?
Yes.
He is a pretty good guy for the most part, but I think he's got sucked into stuff with his brother Malcolm. I think he's covering something with his brother Malcolm.
Got it. Okay. And do you feel like Danny is being deceptive at this point? Would that be your interpretation of his event?
Yes, it would be. I think that Danny is withholding information. And then, so the question is why, you know, people withhold information for many reasons. One is that their involvement. Two is that fear of punishment could be from another person that they were involved with, that, you know, that he would be in harm if he was caught or was, you know, there's called the fear of punishment. So it could be that there's some affiliation that he's not able to tell you the full truth. So he's not telling us the whole truth. He's not. He is not telling us the whole truth. So he's withholding. The question that I would have is why?
Yeah.
If you were telling the truth, why do you feel like you need to withhold anything? The most successful interview and investigations are when you open up, you tell me what happened in your words. And you shut up. You need to talk less and let them talk more. And I said, most of you talk more and let them talk less because you're too interested in leading them down the rabbit hole to get them to answer the questions the way you want to and entrap them.
To put out lies and to put out misinformation and to do that knowingly, that's a whole integrity issue and that shouldn't be tolerated.
If their words and their emotional display are congruent, then we look at that as being more of a truthful statement.
Okay.
But when we're looking at when a person's shaking their head no and they're saying yes, that's discord.
Got it.
So that's saying that through my subconscious mind goes back to the original event when it happens. And that's why the head shakes differently than the words, because it knows what the truth was, and then you try to display or try to present a new picture. You try to create something that is would be more convincing to you. But because of the cognitive load, meaning that when you know the truth and you try to disguise it, it will leak out.
You recognize this individual?
No.
He does know that individual. He looked down, glanced down, and he says no and shakes his head yes. And where? I think it's that reporter again. Yep, that.
There he is.
Claiming that you sat down with Roger's younger sister and dictated a letter in which you confessed
Right
to the
there.
murder.
Right there. That you confess to it, and he's agreeing that. So that's a huge hot spot for me. Yeah, it's very small, but that's what we're looking for, is a very micro leakage.
If someone were asking you a question, did you have any part of that murder, and you're shaking your head yes, you're actually agreeing with what they're asking you. Did you recognize this individual? He says no, and he shakes his head yes. And then he was talking about the dictating of the letter.
Claiming that you sat down with Roger's younger sister and dictated a letter in which you confessed to the murder of Tupac Shakur.
And while he's listening to him ask the question about, did you have any part of dictating this letter, he's shaking his head yes.
Did you ever in your life attend a gang meeting at a park?
No.
Shakes his says no, and his head said no. So that's why I'm saying that he wasn't really involved in this gang as intensely as his brother was. So
Okay, right.
he may have been involved, but he was not actively a member
Right.
in the gang.
According to this letter, you conspired with all these individuals to kill Tupac Shakur.
And then The question was that told you were one that was a part of being a conspirator to killing him, and he shakes his head yes.
According to this letter, you conspired with all these individuals to kill Tupac Shakur.
So in some sort of way, he was involved in this conspiracy or so to kill
Tupac, this artist. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Okay.
That's what your gut. That's what your gut tells you. That's what your gut tells you.
It's not even my gut. I don't go by gut.
Right.
I go by indicators.
Okay.
And I was looking at. I don't go by gut at all. I'm not moved emotionally by it at all. Now, do I take emotion into it when I'm looking at the facial expressions? I'm looking to see if the facial expressions are congruent with his voice. It comes across as being fairly sincere. Seems like he's more of a gentle heart. So he's not as active in this deal as his other brother. So Danny now, that was Malcolm. Now Danny shows a lot of deception.
According to a new video that was released by Mr. Kading and members of the Murder Rap production crew, this letter is a fake. This letter was written by Valerie Juarez, and that this letter was nothing more than a delusional fantasy that was made up by Robert Soria, and that because of his paranoid schizophrenia, he would dream these fantasies and he would document them in this letter. Well, that's just not true. And we're here to talk about that tonight. And we're going to let Mr. Soria speak to it in his own words.
Did he ever ask you to write a letter?
Yes, he did.
And I've shown you a letter.
Under crucial circumstances.
What do you remember what the contents of this letter discuss?
Tupac's murder.
Now, if you remember, if you have an opinion, why would Robert want you to write a letter about Tupac's murder?
To make money off of Fox 11 News.
Okay, it's alleged that one of them dictated a confession letter to you and that you wrote it down.
Doreen, what does Doreen have to do with it?
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive. Doreen doesn't know nothing about it.
Maybe my daughter, because she was around that era at that time.
Was Valerie there when the letter was being written?
No, she wasn't.
Okay.
And I've shown you a letter.
Under crucial circumstances.
What do you remember what the contents of this letter discuss? I've shown you a letter. Do you remember what the contents of this letter discuss?
Tupac's murder.
She claims that you molested her. And she goes into, she doesn't like name times and places, but she goes into, he pulled down my pants and he did these things to me and da 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 da.
Pulling my pants down. He was doing whatever he wanted.
As a result of this abuse, Valerie, how has it affected you?
I'm very paranoid. I can't calm down.
Why don't you just tell me how you feel about Robert?
I hate him. I wish I could hurt him the way he hurt me.
Why would she say that?
Because I turned my back on her. I turned her back in. I told her I couldn't take care of her anymore.
Is this your uncle, Robert?
Yeah, sorry, cocksucker motherfucking bitch.
The thing is since I turned my back on her, her family's not allowed to have her because of the allegations she put against her own father. She got mad and she turned the story on me, but when the children's services came to my house, they found out that the story she said about her father matches the same allegations that she said about me, and they found out that she was out of it.
Okay, so she went to Children's Services with allegations against you, but they found out that they were the same as the ones that she had previously said about her father?
Right, and she didn't say anything of this stuff until after I turned her back into the Children's Services. I had full custody because they were accused of sexual molestation against her own daughter.
Okay.
And that is in the family court in LA. Now, there's going to be two cases open. One that was open in Ventura County because that's where she was from. But because I made the phone call to help out my niece, LA ended up taking the case. Valerie was going to court against her own mother and father for the allegations of him touching her. The mom knew about this going on. Well, she called me from Oxnard telling me that she's living on the streets, that her dad's been, molesting her and everything. And I was like, what do you want me to do? And she's all like, well, I don't know what to do. Talk to Grandpa. So I told her, I said, well, you can come and stay with me until we figure out what's going to happen. And then after that, I called the Children's Services. We finally got it worked out where we have her parents served to show up for court.
Okay.
And then they gave me temporary custody pending the investigation. Then they had her see a psychiatrist. I had her enrolled in West Valley Mental Health, as well, so she was there. And then after that, we went back to court, and they found him guilty, non-eligible, so I got full custody of Valerie.
Wow, and you could prove that in court? You have documents to show that you were able to...
Yeah, the children's court has it. My name is as a guardian to Valerie.
Okay.
And I had to give Valerie back because of her addiction. She started bringing trouble to my house because drug dealers were coming to my house.
And okay, so you had to give her back to Doreen, and you weren't dealing with that.
No, I had to give her back to the Children's Services of Ventura County. That's also documented.
Okay, that was Ventura County?
Ventura County.
Unfortunately, Mr. Kading got his facts wrong again. We let Mr. Soria tell his side of the story in regards to who wrote the confession letter. Okay, so who was the sister that wrote the letter? Let's make sure we get the names right.
Denise.
Okay, Denise wrote the letter. And who,
yes.
and was Danny talking to her about when she wrote the letter?
Yeah, face to face.
Okay.
Well, for one thing, I believe that Danny is going out of his way to get out of his mess. Danny's the one that came up to me and told me the whole situation that he did, the involvement he had. And I took it as a joke at first, but everything he was saying kept on hitting and hitting. Right. And Chris Bashford knew about it too. So, the way I see it is, I think he's just trying to get away with murder.
Were you there when Chris Blatchford talked to Danny?
I was there when he talked on the phone with him.
Right.
They went into a little bit of detail because he kind of questioned them about certain things. And they were talking about Nudist Park, but it was not too much into detail. He was supposed to come to my house and talk to him at my house while he's being blurred out.
Okay. So,
which Danny backed off at the last minute.
Yeah, and he backed off. Why do you think he backed off?
Oh, because he probably got scared.
Yeah.
You know, Ludus Park is, it's a serious thing.
And I know we're going back over some old ground, but why did you think he wrote the letter in the first place? I mean, why would somebody do that? Was it about, were they scared? What was the scoop on that?
Oh, no, Danny just owed a lot of money to, Freeway Rick.
Okay.
So he thought he was going to get some money for his story and, getting Reggie Jr. thrown in prison.
At that time, Fox News was paying a lot of money, and if they thought you could break a story that would get the kind of OJ ratings that you solved Tupac and Biggie, that kind of ratings back in 97, 98, they paid a lot of money for leads. I want to get this straight from the record. Robert Soria.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Robert Soria. Yeah, Robert Soria, are you a paranoid schizophrenic, or have you ever been diagnosed a paranoid schizophrenic?
No.
Okay.
If I was diagnosed as schizophrenic, I wouldn't have been able to stand in court.
Right.
I could have got the insanity plea.
Yeah, that's right. You could have gotten the insanity plea, couldn't you?
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, does he acknowledge that he's schizophrenic?
He's not going to tell you, but he tells me.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. No, I don't mean to be disrespectful asking that. I'm sorry to date.
But if it's, he got, what do you call it, general relief.
And he qualified for SSI as well?
I believe so.
Okay.
Because of his mental problems.
Looney Tune crazy. Schizophrenic. Did you also aware that he was receiving like SSI for?
Yes.
Did you understand that the money he was getting was because of his mental condition?
Yes.
Tell me again, when you went to West Valley Mental Health, what you were depressed? Wasn't that a depression thing?
It was anxiety.
Okay, so that's what you were in there for, was anxiety, right?
Right.
Now, was that outpatient or inpatient?
No, that was outpatient.
Is that the same Robert Soria? So that was the only photo I had, so I won't be able to show you that again. I apologize.
And didn't Greg have he wrote you, didn't he, at one point?
Yeah, he wrote me twice.
Did he? And he said your story, he was interested in your story?
Right. The first time he was trying to befriend me. The second time he was like just talk trash, trash talking.
Oh, really? I don't think I've ever seen that letter. Was that? I saw the one he said he was very interested. What did he say when he was trash talking?
No, he's like, just come out in the open, tell the truth, this and that.
Wow.
That was basically it.
Do you still have that?
Yeah, and if, like you said earlier, if you want, I'm willing to take the polygraph, and they can go ahead and go against that.
Good. Okay. I think that would be a great challenge to put all the way around to everybody, wouldn't it?
Because how are you going to go against that? The truth is going to hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
Have them take a polygraph too.
Yeah. Well, that was the point. If you're going to take one, why won't they? Why shouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Good. So
this is the way I see it. Okay, as long as I'm in prison right now for what I'm in here for, they're going to keep on throwing more and more on me.
Right.
Because I have nothing to stand on. But if you take away my sister, my ex, and my niece, what do you have? A free man named Danny.